staying with TV3. This is Election360, it's a Friday edition. I am Martin Asiedu Date. Coming up on the show today, we'll be taking you to Parliament to find out exactly how the situation has been in time past. The fact that both parties are trying to take hold of the majority side of Parliament. What has the history been like, and what could the projections into 2024 look like? We have details of that as we try and make sense of how both parties are trying to grab the majority in Parliament following the recent developments in the House. We'll also begin our special election feature series with focus on how regional loyalty is favoring political parties. Indirectly, I'm trying to tell you how the Ashanti region, for instance, has predominantly decided to vote for the NPP. Why? Why the Volta region says it is only the NDC and no other party. What's informing that decision? We'll try and bring some further analysis to that for you. This is Election360. A warm welcome to you. It is 29 days to D-Day, December 7, 2024, when Ghanaians go to the polls to vote for 275 members of Parliament and the next crop of leadership for the country. Stay with us. We'll dig into the details right after this. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, like I indicated, that's the magic number, 29 days to December 7, 2024, when you would have to go to your polling station in your area to cast a ballot. 29 days, so you need to stay on queue and be with us as your election command center. We try to help you follow the days and the numbers. Now, there's this very important information we also need to bring to your attention. It has to do with issues of offenses or undue influence. Undue influence, and this actually law. So let me go straight to it and then you understand what I'm talking about. So a person commits the offense of undue influence. And undue influence, we're not talking about social media influencers, but people who use force to either disenfranchise people or get people not to vote as a result of causing fear and panic. So let's go to the specific letters of the law. It says, a person commits the offense of undue influence if A, he directly or indirectly or through another person acting on his behalf makes use of or threatens to make use of force, violence, or restraint, or inflicts or threatens to inflict on another person a temporal or spiritual injury. Now that part really intrigues me. Spiritual injury or damage or harm or loss in order to induce or compel that person to vote or refrain from voting, or on account of that person having voted or refrained from voting. So what this simply is putting across is that if you threaten someone or use force to get someone to go and vote, or use force to prevent someone from voting or exercising their legal duty of going to vote, you have fallen foul of the law and the law will deal with you decisively. So that's exactly what undue influence is in the laws of our republic. So you need to be mindful of that. When you are going out campaigning, when you are with people who are getting ready to go and vote, be mindful of how you influence them. Whether you use force, especially if you do use force, that is, you are contravening the law that allows all of us to have the freedom to go and vote. So that's just by way of your election nugget. Keep that in your mind and in your pocket as we all prepare for the 7th of December 2024. This is Election360. Stay with us. We are your election command center. It's time for our special feature as we build up to the elections. Now, some regions have naturally opened, I beg your pardon, maybe I have to take it this way. So some regions have naturally opted to stick with one political party or another, with some remaining loyal only to the eventual winner. There's more in this particular report by Evelyn Tingma.
On December 7, Ghanaians will go to the polls to elect a president and parliamentary candidates. This will be the 9th time since the country began its democratic elections under the 4th Republican Constitution. In all these elections, one thing is clear: regional loyalty. This happens when one region tends to vote serially in one direction for a political party for a long time. Regional loyalty, no doubt, significantly influences voting patterns in Ghana, as in the case in the Volta and Ashanti regions. The Ashanti region, for instance, tends to vote for the New Patriotic Party (NPP), while the Volta region predominantly supports the National Democratic Congress (NDC). In 1992, Ghana's first elections under the Fourth Republic, despite the popularity and charisma of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, he could not win the elections in the Ashanti region. At the end of polls, the NPP Albert Edubuahin polled 431,380 votes, representing 60.54%, while Jerry John Rawlings of the NDC had 234,237 votes, representing 32.87%. That pattern of voting in the region has continued till date. In the Volta region also in 1992, while Jerry John Rawlings of the NDC polled 446,365 votes, representing 93.24% of valid vote cast, the NPP Albert Edubuahin garnered 17,295 votes, representing 3.61%. This voting pattern has also continued throughout the years. The Northern, Upper East and West, Savannah, Western North and Bono East regions have also been loyal to the NDC. The Ahafo, Bono, Eastern and until recently Northeast regions have also been loyal to the NPP. Cosmopolitan areas such as the Greater Accra region has no loyalty, as well as the Western and Central regions, also known as the swing regions. Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, explained loyalties are now being tested due to demography.
If you take a region like Ashanti region, the whole region is mostly Ashantis. And the foundation of MPP is in Ashanti region. So you don't expect that they will not be loyal. Even if the numbers drop, a good number will still be voting for MPP. In the Volta region, even if the loyalty towards NDC drops, a very good number will still be voting NDC. I can't imagine in the next 20 years any party other than NDC winning Volta region. And I can't imagine in the next 40, 50 years any party winning Ashanti region other than MPP. Those are demographically structured population that would naturally go this way. But I don't think the loyalty is going to be there permanently. It's being tested strongly. And this is so because of the new block of people we have as voters. They are younger voters, they are less ethnic and more diverse in their thinking and more progressive. So a time will come that those regional loyalties would be shrinking.
But can there ever be a change in the voting pattern in these loyal regions?
Yes, I think if you look at the current demography of voters, people who say they are MPP among the younger voters or NDC among the younger voters and floating voters, what we have noticed is that significant portion of first-time voters choose to call themselves floating voters, meaning they don't want to be loyal to MPP, nor to NDC, nor to any other smaller party. They want to be a group of people who just decide what is good for them and they vote on that basis, not because they are MPP or NDC. Now, if that trend continues, I think in the next 2 decades, we can see that happening quickly.
Musa Dankwa noted reasons for the loyalty, adding there could be imbalances in the near future due to human movement.
For example, in the last COVID time, we saw a lot of the votarians registering to vote in Greater Accra. Accra went up by almost 400,000 voters in 2020. That was because the people of Volta region who lived in Accra, who used to travel to Volta to go and register and vote, couldn't go because of COVID restrictions. So they remain here and they now vote here. That has brought a permanent change in demography of Greater Accra. And that will make Accra more likely to vote NDC than MPP because of the sheer number that move from Volta region or that could have gone to Volta region but remain in Accra to vote. And that's what is making Accra a lot greener. If we have similar movement in other geographical locations in the regions, this could also happen, and that would test loyalty of some regions to a particular party.
Other political watchers have noted that the country has experienced violence connected to subnational electoral processes, highlighting the need for peaceful elections. They argued that to ensure a peaceful election, the complexities of regional loyalty and voting patterns would have to be addressed. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
Oh, great piece put together by Evelyn Tinkma, and also, the concerns raised by Musa Dankwa, or the thoughts shared by Musa Dankwa also brings up a number of issues. And very soon, Roland Walker and I will be walking you through the historicity of regions that have stuck to one party and how modernity is likely to influence some of those, stuck positions that many regions have shared. And also, he touched on a very cogent subject many of you might not have caught, which is how the movement of people and development could influence where they vote and how that could, in the next few years, influence the voting pattern of certain regions. Well, let's dive straight into the analysis now. Roland Walker, thank you for joining us.
Well, it's very interesting. At the dawn of this Fourth Republic, you'll find that somebody who was very towering when it comes to Ghana's democracy at the beginning of 1992 into 1993, ushering into this Fourth Republic, has been Jerry Rawlings. It's also because he'd been in power, chairman of the Provisional National Defense Council, the PNDC, had a lot of charisma. You could find that when it comes to his influence, it really did cut across. And you'll find that when it was for 1996 being the vote, in the exception of 1992, he was able to at least garner 90% of the votes.
And then prior to 96, in 92, he was probably about 93%.
Yeah, certainly. And then, of course, for the parliamentary election, there was the whole boycott. So you find that transition into 1996, but it's that personality. And you could find that when it comes to all that wave or the line or the stretch across the equilibrium, you will find that nobody has been able to get 90% of the votes, being just 9 regions, so to speak. At the time, we had 10 regions. So it means that somebody is able to appeal to many people. But you come to the year 2000, and that was the historic transition. His vice president, who became the presidential candidate, were told that there was a Swedu declaration, etc. People thought he would do so well, looking at the historical performance of the MPP that was led at the time as presidential candidate John Ejekum Kufuor, who then pulled the surprise and was able to get 6 out of the 10 regions. And that was very surprising. But we have to put that into perspective, because out of that 6 region, for which we only had 5 regions being won by the NDC Sata Mills, was the role that was played by voters in Ashanti and the other Akan regions. Namely, you will find that there are people who will subscribe or be sympathizers, voters for the MPP in the Eastern region, in the Bono regions subsequently. And many of the dominated Akan areas, you'll find them in the Guan areas, in the Volta region, elsewhere, especially in the Tepa areas when it comes to now the present OT region. And so if you take a look at that 60% performance, that then was repeated again by John Ejekum Kufuor in the 2004 election, where he won 6 regions once again. It speaks volumes about the performance beginning of the MPP in terms of the number of regions they win, and then also what propels them to be able to win the presidency and to form government. For the NDC, though, you will find that they have to go the extra mile, meaning that as you win, you also mean you need to get more of the regions. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2008, you'll find that they didn't do too well. And it had to take Atta Mills also extending his lead, winning 8 regions. And of course, there was a second round subsequently, but you could see that the performance was very high. It means that the appeal of the candidate is very important. Because Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, despite having Ashanti region behind him, Eastern region behind him, Bono regions or Bono Afro region at the time behind him, you find the various Akan areas, Central and Western region behind him. He was only able to win 4 out of the 10 regions at the time. It also means that the candidate's appeal would have to be very influential, and that subsequently will have a bear on the 2016 result, for example. So Atta Mills, maybe he was doing something right. It could be door to door, appealing to many people beyond the traditional areas where NDC will be getting their votes. And I think that is also same with the narrative today, because John Mahama also replicated that in the 2012 election, winning 8 out of the 10 regions at the time, again showing that 80% of those regions say they want to vote for you in terms of the number of regions we're having. And 2016, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo only winning with only 6 regions. What it tells me, and anybody who does the analysis of the electoral polls and the result, is the MPP is dominant in the Akan traditional areas. You will find that there's no shift socio-culturally as well as by way of loyalty towards any other party within the core demographics. And it means that if you want to chip away the vote of the MPP and be able to win as a presidential candidate of the NDC, you have to get onto the ground, get into the regions where the MPP is very popular, and be able to convince their demographic that I think that you don't have to traditionally commit to your presidential candidate because I can be as serviceable, committed, and loyal.
And a number of things come up in this conversation we are having, which has to do with, first of all, the quantum of voters in a region. So although a region on the map can look very big, the settlers there, or the number of people who are registered to vote in that region, may be very small. So if you are imagining the size of a region to say that because the regional size on the land mass is big, and by virtue of that, the person will get more votes, you could be deceiving yourself. Because if you look at the Greater Accra region, size-wise, other regions are bigger than the Greater Accra region. However, the Greater Accra region is very dense in terms of the people who are staying in the region. And
very important.
The former president, John Evans Atta Mills, also will be credited with the ability to marshal central regional votes. And also, he introduced this door-to-door way of campaigning. Ordinarily, the politicians, right from the era of Chairman Rawlings through John Kufuor up until Atta Mills joined the race fully in 2008, everybody was doing mass rallies. So you go to a constituency, hope that your supporters will come out, and then you talk to them and go away.
Certainly.
But he knew he had tried to get the power after John Kufuor several times. So he decided to do a door-to-door, which was a new...
And I think that's a very comprehensive observation that has been made, because just like the United States, we were, as Election360, Election Command Center, we have to say Ghana could be divided into blue regions and then green regions. It's possible. What it means is that the MPP has a lot of loyalty in its core regions. What it has been able to do over the period is it's been able to inch or eat into some of the core areas where the NDC will get the vote, especially when it comes to the northern regions. And for example, the northeast region has 10 blue. Purely and MPP.
That is using the 2020 as a basis for this analysis.
Exactly. Has 10 blue. And we're talking about the transition into the current election, which is in 29 days. Now, the blue regions are the core, again, Akan areas. It means that socioculturally, in terms of their affinity to be able to identify with a candidate is very important. And then also able to identify with the messaging. It's critical. And so if you take a look at the Bono region, the Afro region, because there have been divisions from the Bono Afro region, Ashanti region, which is the core because it's been deeply colored blue, and then the Eastern region as well, the MPP can say, I want to go to sleep. And Ashanti region, Eastern region will vote for me. Because remember, in 2020, the last election, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo won just with 7 regions. At the time, we had the demarcation of our country into 16 regions. Right. So if a presidential candidate is able to just win 7 regions and win the presidency, it tells you how that person is very powerful in terms of his appeal, and then how those regions and the demographics also tend to be loyal.
And then it also goes to buttress the point of the fact that you can win several other regions, but because of the population, the voter population in these regions, it gives you, because you possibly cannot win more regions but still lose. He won less regions, or 7 regions out of the 16 and won. So it tells you, it just reiterates the point that the fact that the region, or you have many more regions, does not mean that you are going to win automatically.
And I think that also eats into the narrative, or also buttress our narrative, and then our observation that for the NDC to make any impact in this election in 29 days, it will mean that just winning about 9 regions won't be enough. Even 10 regions will be enough. You need to garner as many votes. Remember, just in excess of 600,000 votes out of the number of voters from the Ashanti region from the last election was what they're able to get. The Eastern region will become critical. The Ashanti region is even more critical for the NDC if they want to win, because that is why you find that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been going to the Ashanti region to go and tell them that, look, you are our people. We promise that we're going to do so many things for you. They are even promising that they want to create an airport city in the center of Greater Kumasi. And if you give such a message to a core traditional demographic area, which will always be blue, it also means that you're telling them that I want to be committed to you. The commitment, however, will have to be benchmarked. So the NDC then, according to what the polls are indicating, the observations, they must make sure that there's a high turnout for them in the central region. Not necessarily that they have to win the eastern region, but also a high turnout for them in the western region.
Right.
All right? And it's very important.
Absolutely. Well, clearly what we are doing is to also help you follow the conversation about how regional voting patterns have been over the last few years, and the probability of some of these statistics or data shifting and changing for a number of reasons. And like we've indicated, it could be the total voter population in an area, it could be how they are positioned, and the messaging. Mind you, the cosmopolitan nature of some of these regions is also influencing the voter party, because if, for instance, now there is a certainty that people within the Greater Accra area are being a lot more educated, it means they might be more critical of the messaging of the political parties before deciding. So it wouldn't be all play or how the status quo has always been, where we know that, oh, this region, they just vote this way. They are now being a lot more considerate in whom they vote for. You've been watching Election 360. Roland Walker will stay with us a bit longer. Stay with us as well. We are going on a quick breather. We'll be back with more.
With a female bestie, red flag or green flag?
Who is no, make her disappear, like make her disappear out of his life. Like she's gonna be gone. Like gone.
Red flag, exclamation mark.
Thank you for staying with TV3. This is Election360, and we are going next to our big subject of either party. Both are trying to have a big hold of Parliament. Our discussion today is focusing on the pathway to parliamentary majority. We know that currently there's some level of chaos. Some say it is a constitutional crisis, others say no, but put all of that aside and let's look at the nitty-gritty of numbers. The parliament we have currently is sharply divided, but for one making the NPP majority. So let's walk through the numbers. Roland is still with us. Wow. And as you can see,
very interesting numbers.
Is a sharply divided parliament. We have 137 for the NDC, 137 for the NDC. But for the Fomena seat, there was no clear majority. And now the conversation is who is majority in the House. We'll talk about all of that later. But this is the 2020 Parliament as we have it. Their 4-year tenure is about expiring. But when they entered in January 20, so that's 4 years back, so January 2020, this is how the seats in Parliament was like. Then the conversation of specific regions that produced the most for the NDC and the NPP.
And certainly, that for the NPP, traditionally we've established that. And so for a blue region like the Ashanti region, they currently hold 42 seats. The whole region, there are 47 seats. The NDC has 3, and then we have an independent. But then even that, for me now, it's a pure NPP constituency.
He has 4. And then there's 1 independent. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Plus this, that's 47.
So when you tend to do the analysis, you also get to find that for the core areas where you want the NPP to do well, they don't have a seat in OT region, which is the only region where they have no seat at all. And that's why it's there. But then it's a newly carved out region from the Volta region. And they've been making a lot of inroads in there, thinking or hoping that they'll do very well.
The more reason why the vice president and the current flag bearer of the party has been to the OT region. He was there, he truncated his campaign tour.
Went to the Tepa areas, Abotwase, many of those areas, and the message. But it's also because there's a socio-cultural link of the people. They are, is it Guan speaking, but traditionally also have more affinity to the Ashantis. They are more akan in terms of their scope, etc. Where the NDC has the most seats is the Greater Accra region.
Right.
You look at the average of what the observations have been, what the numbers have been, what the data have been when we're talking about collecting from a demographic or a sample, whether it's Global Info Analytics or the various posters as we have. The Greater Accra region has become a potpourri of many people. You'll find that those in the Volta region, because of a lack of economic empowerment, no jobs availability, they tend to do a lot of migration into Greater Accra. And there's also the explanation from Musa Dankwe's Global Info Analytics survey indicating that we have more people either closer from the central region, a little of the eastern region, and then you have more of the Volta region who for the last election did not go back to their regions to go and vote because there was COVID. And so they registered or transferred their votes here subsequently, whether young people, etc. And so the NDC seems to be having an upper hand in the Greater Accra region. And once it is a cosmopolitan area, standard of living issues, bread and butter issues, and we're just talking about Trump winning, economy is a basis for that. So the projection is that even though they have the lowest of the seats in the Ahafo, or the northeast regions, they could also marginally increase their seats here, depending on what the message is, how they are able to get in touch with a lot of the voters in there. But mind you, you go to many of the Okankwe areas and you find more core MPP voters there. So that's the explanation we're told. And that's how we are having the seats being projected and then being observed into this election in 20...
And probably just a quick one on this. The Greater Accra region also has the highest voter population and the highest voter...
Apart from Ashanti.
Yes, after...
It's the first, Ashanti is the second.
And so for the NDC to be able to marshal this number of votes in the 2020 elections tells you how unpredictable the Greater Accra region is, because you would have thought that because of the the diverse nature of the voting population, it should have been split down the middle. But it was a decisive victory for the NDC that they won the majority parliamentary seats. However, if you look at the presidential elections in the Greater Accra region as well, the NDC won, but did not win the national election, did not form the government.
It also shows that Greater Accra is not the ultimate decider for you. And if you look at the projections also, and then the data they are picking, we're having a shift in terms of the grounds of which regions will give you which more of the seats. That is on voting day, the projections are coming, the results are coming, and you think you're winning from a number of seats. So it means you have to go more into Ashanti, Eastern region, convince voters to be able to... Look, projections so far are indicating that the safe seats for both parties have been indicated, clear-cut. So for the MPP, we have 276 seats now, because now we have constituencies with Guan in addition, 276.
Yes.
What the MPP can bank their hopes on now and say that when we go and sleep, we can say that we can win a seat in the next parliament, which will be the 9th parliament, 96 seats.
96
and for the
safe seats for the
and
MPP.
For the MPP, that's safe. 96 seats based on data that's being collected on the ground, projections. For the NDC, they are not lucky at all. They have to work and make sure they convince, get into the nooks and cranny, make sure they sell their policies, because let's say they do nothing else and they want to go to bed and sleep. They only get 82 seats. So then the rest become toss-ups.
Yes.
So who is able to get there, convince people, how the candidates from both sides are able to influence people, how influential they are, and when it comes to political marketing, social marketing, etc., top of the mind awareness. When voters are undecisive, they go to the polls, who do they remember to say that, look, maybe I think I should go for this, the last minute. And so that means that for 96 for MPP being blue, and then for 82 being green seats.
And we can also, the reason why this is the projection is that these polls are from the numbers of the 2020 elections, and we are looking at seats that they won comfortably with wider margins. And of all the 275, 96 of them, and now you're saying 276.
Because of Guan.
Because of the Guan constituency. As the data from the 2020 elections shows that there are some constituencies that the MPP won with wider margins, and is very likely to remain so. And that is why we are projecting that 96 seats will be safe for the MPP. Same way, 82 seats by the NDC won in 2020 were won by wider margins, and it will be difficult for the NPP to either claw or take any of those 82 seats back. So they are safe seats for the NDC as well. However, we have 276. If you subtract this from 276, the remaining is what we call the toss-ups or the undecided constituencies. Already, we have members of parliament in those constituencies, the ones that are not clearly NDC or MPP. There are MPs. The concern here is that, or our pointer here is that, those constituencies, per the numbers, the margins were very close. So it could be an NDC seat, but it won by, and of course, our parliamentary system is first past the post. So if even we are 10 and you win by 1 vote, you are the MP for the area. The margins were so slim that we cannot say it is going to remain an NDC seat or an MPP seat. That is why we are leaving those ones as hanging. Now, these are some of the seats that are contentious or up for grabs in the Ashanti region. Although they are in the Ashanti region, they are not guaranteed seats for the MPP. And we have Ahafo North, Ahafo Southwest, Chumamponia, New Edubiase, Offensive North, and Sechura Front Plains. Some of these have been won by the NDC and MPP, or currently being held by NDC or MPP. But we are projecting that they are, the probability of them changing color when we go to the polls are high. That is why we've not given it to either party.
Fantastic. And these are extrapolations from average data that is being collected by the various polling agencies that we have currently in Ghana. And so you find that from the 2020 results, there's just a margin of just in excess 2,000 votes in favor of the NDC when it comes to the new Biase constituency.
Which is
so that member of parliament
region
today just won by 2,048. So that also speaks to the bigger issue about when it comes to the Ashanti region and which ones could be among the toss-up. Because you take a look at this and you'll find the new Biase is the exception.
Absolutely.
There. Ofinso North, Setrafam Plains, Ekrimam Punya, Ahafuano South, West, Ahafuano North. The projections are now that apart from New Biase, these ones are not MPP.
Yes.
But you speak to the voters, the prospective voters, and they tell you, we want these conditions to be met. If the conditions are met, then it means that we go all out for you. And so for a blue region like the Ashanti region, these are the toss-up areas and the ramification that we can give. For this, for the Setrafam Plains, it's just a win by 156.
Right.
That would mean that, I mean, no matter what you do,
and that is
still
why
not
they remain toss-up. So like you indicated, the new Biase constituency, the NDC has won. It is safely sat in the Ashanti region, which we know is predominantly MPP. However, the MPP has struggled to win it. They've only won it once since '96. Yeah. And it tells you that the NDC seems to be comfortable there. Yeah. However, we are saying that based on the total number of vote difference between the NPP and the NDC in the last elections, there is a possibility that if the NPP are minded, considering the fact that, one, they've chosen their vice presidential candidate from the Ashanti region, who has promised to deliver 85% of regional votes for the party, if they push and put in the effort, they are likely to turn the new
a huge toss-up. Yeah. And based on what the numbers are, we're told that these demographics in the areas, Setrafam Plains, and then also New Biase, you have a lot of Muslim migrants, nothing dominated people also there. So, and you have a candidate from the northern regions, so to speak, for both parties.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So both candidates are from northern.
So who the candidate is very important. How they're able to interact with the people is very important, Martin.
Pretty much interesting finalities there. So you're still watching Election 360. Let's find out what exactly is happening on the campaign trail, because we've just taken you through some of the regional dynamics and constituency issues that could decide which way they go. Let's now hit the campaign trail and speak to our correspondents who are following both flag bearers. Daniel Opoku is a man who is following the NPP's flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bamia, who is currently at Jakobu, Amansia Central constituency, to begin his stakeholder engagement and also to participate in making this year's National Farmers Day. Clearly killing like 2-3 birds with one stone. Daniel, thank you for joining us. So first of all, where is the vice president going from or moving from to Jakobu for this year's National Farmers Day event?
Right, so good afternoon to you, Martin. The vice president of the MPP flag bearer just concluded an engagement with the people of Odotobri. And Odotobri is in Amansia Central. So the Odotobri constituency in the Amansia Central, where he engaged with the traditional leaders, the clergy, and then also the opinion leaders as well, where he strongly promised them to be able to set up, ask Kokobot from next year, for Kokobot to be able to begin the payment of fees for children under the Koko scholarship. From next year, all those on the Koko scholarship moving to the tertiary level, they're investing to pay their fees for free, and i.e. doing the payment through Cocoa Board. So Cocoa Board will begin to foot their bills. And the chief in the area, Nana Edu, that also raised the issue about the deplorable nature of farmlands, citing climate change, which have impacted negatively on farmlands. The vice president promised them that there is going to be a new strategy in terms of deploying limestone to be able to resolve this particular problem. Currently, he has just concluded the engagement and also moving to Edubia because today is a Muslim and today is Friday. He's going to engage in the Muslim prayers, that's the Jummah prayers. Then right from Edubia, he moved to Mansong Kwanta. From Mansong Kwanta to Impatuum, that's where we'll be doing the stakeholders engagement, also be doing community connect to sell his ideas to the members or the people in the constituency that I have mentioned here currently.
All right, Daniel Opoku, thank you for that report. He is on the trail of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the NPP flag bearer, who is also on his way to today being National Farmers Day. Coincidentally, many of you thought today would have been a holiday. No, sorry about that, but you're all expected to go to work. And the Vice President would also be at work at this year's National Farmers Day. Thank you to all farmers, by the way, for keeping the country fed. Would in the next few minutes also join the campaign trail of the National Democratic Congress, where Komla Kluche will join us in a moment. But before we cross to Komla Kluche, who's following the NDC flag bearer, maybe we can come in wrapping up our conversation about these toss-up constituencies. Central Farm Plains, again, is in the heart or sat right in the Ashanti region. And you would have expected that Ashanti region would have naturally voted for the NPP.
Yeah.
But consistently, 3 times in a row, the NDC has won this constituency. And look at the vote margin by 156. And like you indicated, because it is first pass, whoever gets the majority, whether by 1 or by 3, wins the day. 156 votes is very easy to cross. It will only depend on the amount of work and the amount of campaign promise made by the flag bearer or the candidates in that constituency, and then the dynamics might shift. All right, I'm told Komla Kluche has joined us now. Komla, thank you for joining us. We know that the NDC flag bearer was in the OT region a few days ago and is headed to the central region. Has he arrived in the central region? What can you report, Komla? So we're trying to see if we can get a clear connection to Komla Kluche, a man who is following John Dramani Mahama's campaign. Komla, I'm asking you that we know a few days ago, John Mahama was in the OT region, headed to the, we are told he's headed to the central region. Has he arrived? What can you report?
Yes, Martin, if you can hear me, John Mahama is in the central region. We started from the roots to the if you continue, we're speaking at the Kapua Lorry Station. But not our focus on him has been on the economy. Remember, we said a couple of days ago that this year's NFA is speaking about the economy, and so the MPP should wake up and smell the coffee regarding that. These some words I will not be able to repeat. But in speaking to the people here at the Kapua Lorry Station, I mean, it's been about reminding them of what the economy has been since the MPP took administration. Even before the MPP took administration, he reminded them of what he had the country in his hands and what he left it. But of not focus as well, he's been speaking about the development he's done in the central region, the Kapua area market. He's been speaking about the bridge or a flyover, which we constructed, which in 2015-2016, the MPP took him to the cleanup, indicating that the money meant for the project, which was a 3-tier 1, the money was too much, and that the project needs to be investigated. A justification has come at the time, and even now, John Mahama continues to indicating that the project has lived up to the billing.
All right, Komla, thank you for that report. Apologies to the viewing public that there isn't too much clarity in Komla's report, but he just confirmed that John Mahama has arrived at the central region. And central region, why? Because it is one of the key, in fact, of all the swing regions we have in Ghana, the central region is the most swing of them all, and it is good reason why John Mahama would want to go there. This is his 2nd or 3rd time of going to that region. They also have selected their vice presidential candidate, their running mate from that region, and it makes good reason to keep going there, drumming home the reason why they believe that region should give them the mandate. Well, you've been watching Election360. I've been here with Roland Walker, and today the Friday edition has primarily been to help you understand the parliamentary dynamics and key constituencies that are safe for the NDC and the NPP, and the ones that are in between, where both parties need to work their socks off if they intend to win. That's it for our show today. Thank you for watching, and as always, hasta la vista. Bye.